Hi everyone. So today we are going to talk about degree of directness related to communication. So we'll start off with talking about equivocal language. And so equivocal language is finding words or phrases, signs in the case of sign language, that don't, they sort of avoid, they obfuscate the message. They avoid coming out and directly responding to, for example, a question. So if somebody says, "Ooh, how does my dinner taste?" and you say, "Oh, it tastes different," um, instead of saying, "I don't like it," right? So maybe somebody is given you a new dish and you taste this new thing that they've made and you go, "Oh, it's different." So depending on your tone related with that word of different, you might be trying to soften the blow of it, is you don't really care for it. But you're not really coming right out and saying, "I don't like it." So this is an equivocal term. If maybe somebody goes and gets their hair they change their hairstyle. They go, "Oh, what do you think about my new hairstyle?" And they go, let's say that their new hairstyle is poofy, and your response is, "Oh, well, it's sure poofy." Um, that doesn't say that you don't like it or that you think it's ugly. You're just acknowledging the new physical appearance of the hairstyle, right? So that's equivocal language, and as interpreters, we will deal with this as well because not everybody wants to turn around and just say, "Oh, respond to these types of questions. What do you think about?" And then if the other person doesn't like it, they're going to try to obfuscate the message by using equivocal language. All right. All right. And we also have euphemistic language. And so this is euphemisms. And this is replacing direct language with socially acceptable terms. So things like going to the room where you urinate or defecate. Nobody says that, right? And so we call it a bathroom, or we call it a powder room, or you call it the if you're female, you identify as female, and you go to the ladies' room. You might call it the little girl's room, but it is the room where you go to urinate and defecate. Or something like the dog needs to go out, or the dog just did his business out in the front yard, right? That's a euphemistic way of dealing with the dog went out and either urinated or defecated or both. So there are lots of, you can, in fact, go online and look up euphemisms. You can probably find some fun videos that will approach euphemisms in various ways. But as interpreters, same thing. We're looking for being able to communicate these euphemistic terms appropriately. Next is abstract language. And in this case, what we mean by abstract is a little bit different than the out there terms, such as like love. Love is an abstract term, right? It's hard to define. But for us, what I'm kind of talking about right now is something like three words I put up on the slide is camping, weapons, and drugs. Camping, we don't know what camping means, right? If I ask you, what does camping mean? For some people, camping means going out to the mountains and setting up a tent and sleeping in a tent. Other people, camping means going to the ocean and in an RV and staying there for a couple of days. So camping is an abstract term because we really don't know specifically what it means unless we know more of the context, which there's another video on context that you might want to watch. Weapons is also a term that is abstract. We don't know what the weapon is because a weapon could be anything, right? Anything that hurts somebody else in the form of a negative version of a weapon. If you use a gun, if you use a knife, if you use a rope, this all sounds like the game of Clue, right? You could, if you watch, what's that Keanu Reeves movie? they say he kills people with a pencil. So a pencil could be a weapon. So weapon is an abstract term. And in sign language, there's not even an agreed upon sign for weapon, because typically in sign language, how we will address the use of the word weapon is to understand what the weapon is. Was it a rock? Was it a drill? Was it a statue, some kind of a small statue that you could hit somebody over the head with? Who knows what the weapon is? This is also true of drugs. Drugs is non-specific. It's an abstract term because it doesn't tell us if it's prescription drugs or if it's illegal drugs. It doesn't tell us specifically if it's something like aspirin, penicillin, crystal meth, cocaine, marijuana. Who knows what the drug is if we're not being specific. So these are abstract terms that we will hear, and as interpreters, we may have to deal with them differently than just hearing the abstract term itself. And then another communication style degree of directness is passive voice. And that implies that something was done by somebody, but it doesn't necessarily say who. So in the two examples here, the president was shot. We don't know who shot the president. So in sign language, if you just sign the two signs that most people do and go president, shoot, well, what you're actually saying is the president shot somebody or something, and what you really mean to say in this case is somebody else shot the president. So you would have to deal with that in sign language in a very specific way. The car was wrecked is the other example on the slide. Well, we don't know who wrecked the car, and we don't know what wrecked actually means. Wrecked is kind of an abstract term because is it a fender bender? Was it totally destroyed in whatever kind of crash? We don't know what that means. But in the passive voice, the car was wrecked implies that somebody wrecked the car, but we don't know who wrecked the car. All right. So do some research online of equivocal, euphemistic, abstract, and passive voice in these forms of language communication styles and degrees of directness, and be the best interpreter that you can be.